We're creating a monster. We're creating a legislature that is far beyond what anybody involved in the creation of the Constitution had in mind. And it is amazing to me that as much as I've heard over the last 10 years, Constitution and America and the people and freedom, that we are establishing what in my mind is, again, worse than a monarchy. Because what we're establishing and what we should have learned from this session is that we're establishing a fiefdom. And I'm not talking about who your present leaders are, because we know factually in this chamber next year there will be a different leader. And we don't know who that person is. That person may not have been elected yet. But what we do know is that it will be a person who might not necessarily come in with full support from everybody, even in the majority caucus. But you're now creating the opportunity for that person to completely change the face of the state by continuing to consolidate power into two people who cannot be unelected by the people of this state. 10.5 million people in this state. And basically what we're doing is we're picking 85,000 or so on this side, about 240,000 on the other side. So 320,000 people are going to decide, in some sense, what the entire policy for the entire state is, whether they're rural, urban, whoever it is. And if we're being candid, since we're getting ready to do maps next week, it's fewer than that. Because obviously, if somebody's got the opportunity to be a leader in the majority, probably not going to be looking at a 50-50 district. Why is that important? Because these boards and commissions touch the very heart of what we do in this state. They touch every aspect of our lives. They make every decision. And we are making each and every one of the people on these boards and commissions beholden to people that they cannot touch, they cannot affect, they cannot make decisions with, they cannot vote out of office. Whether you like the governor or not, or whether you like the idea of a governor or not, it is a necessary position and role under our Constitution. But the only thing I've seen in the last 14 years, and especially in the last 9 years that I've been here, is this verve, this fury to make sure that we take power from every other branch of government. We've already emasculated the judiciary. We're picking our own judges now. And then because we turned judgeships partisan, we've made sure that those that are in power in the judgeships are beholden to the majority party, therefore beholden to two people in this chamber. And it is amazing to me that we, as smart, well-rounded thinking people, think this is going to go okay, that this is going to be all right, that, as long as we're in power, everything's going to be fine. One day somebody's running things that you don't agree with. That is a guarantee in a democracy. And as long as we have the semblance of a democracy in this state, that is a guarantee. And what happens when you're on the other side of that ball? You've seen some examples pop up during this session, and they are small examples. But sooner or later, it's going to be your kids, your families, your communities, your businesses, your schools that are suddenly on the other side of that wrecking ball. And then what are you going to do? You can't vote them out of office. You can't try to go a different direction, because we know how this game is played and we know how this thing is built. So I'm not going to pretend like putting it in our hands suddenly makes it more democratic. Every single person in here knows that doesn't make it more democratic. It makes it easier to control. And it's not bad work if you can get it. I mean, if you can pop into a position, get elected to this office, and manage to become a leader in the majority, it's a pretty good gig. Because we're suddenly at a point where that person doesn't have to answer to anybody. How does a democracy work when there's somebody who controls $30 billion, all of the boards, all of the commissions, the elections, and doesn't have to answer to anybody outside of the constituents that they have drawn to vote for them? Now, unfortunately, I've got a feeling that this doesn't sway anybody, but I'm hoping somebody hears me and somebody thinks, maybe this isn't the way a democracy ought to go. Because we talk about Constitution. We talk about supporting people. We talk about trying to take care of our people. But what we seem to be doing is making sure that we take care of ourselves. This is not what government is meant to be. This is not what a true democracy looks like. There is nothing wrong with having differing views, differing thoughts, differing ways of achieving an objective. Nothing at all. And there's nothing wrong with going through changes in a democratic way. Losing because you lose, that's fine. But losing where you continually stack the odds against the very people we're meant to protect gets frightening. And when people make the decision that not one decision that affects them do they have any kind of control over, that puts us in a very bad position, in a bad light. We have seen dysfunction. My God, the partisanism, the polarization, the first speaker ever put out of Congress in this manner, and we just keep barreling on down the road like none of this stuff is happening. But then one day it's you, and I promise you, one day you're going to be sitting on the other side and you're going to be thinking, maybe those weren't the best decisions. So all I ask is really reach down. Don't think about how this helps us singularly. Ask how this helps the state as a whole. We've all got a chance to get another governor next year. All of us. We work hard, we do what we're supposed to do, we spread a message, you'll get the governor you want. Let that governor have some type of power. Why have a figurehead in that position? If you're going to have a figurehead, just get rid of the position. And I'm sure my saying that just made somebody think, man, we could legislate that position out. So sorry for that, whoever the next governor's trying to be. But goodness gracious, guys, this is not helpful for a democracy. And for all the growth that we've had economically, I can promise you, having the most powerful legislature in the United States, that sounds good until you suddenly don't have jobs for folks. To suddenly everybody's working at minimum wage, except for a top 1-2%. Everybody's trying to find a way to take care of their families, except for 1 or 2%. And this is the way you end up there. So please consider supporting the governor's veto, not because it's Democratic, not because it's Republican, not because of any other anything. If nothing else, think about folks who aren't you. Because after passage of this bill and the other bills that we've passed, if you're not in this building, you don't count anymore. You are left to the devices of a bunch of folks who never have to answer to you, and that's not what we're meant to do. So please support the governor's veto.
The question before the House is the motion that Senate Bill 512 become law notwithstanding the objections of the governor.